When Victoria asked for a new driver, she never thought fate would take the wheel. Standing in front of her was the same man who had spoken harshly to her 2 days earlier. She couldn't believe her luck. This was an opportunity to make his life miserable and get back at him for the disrespect. She hired him on the spot, already planning a week of torture he would never forget. But karma has a strange sense of humor. He ended up stealing the one thing she swore she would never give, her heart. And by the time she realized what was happening, it was too late. She had already fallen in love.
2 days earlier, when they first met, it was supposed to be a simple afternoon. Tori Sterling had one job: get to her investor lunch on time and secure the deal that would prove to her late father's board of directors that she was capable of running the family's real estate empire. She was already 15 minutes late, her phone pressed against her ear as her lawyer droned on about contract details she barely had time to process. At 28 years old, she had inherited more responsibility than she ever wanted, and the weight of it was crushing her. The parking lot of the upscale shopping district was packed, as usual. Tori's luxury sedan idled near the exit lane, her fingers drumming impatiently on the steering wheel. That was when she saw it, a black town car beginning to pull out of a parking space, moving directly into the lane she was waiting to enter. She honked, once, twice, 3 times. The town car continued its smooth exit, the driver apparently unbothered by her horn. Tori felt her blood pressure spike. She rolled down her window and leaned out. "Are you serious right now? Do you not see me waiting? Some of us have actual important places to be." The town car stopped. The driver's window rolled down, revealing a man in his early 30s wearing a crisp white shirt and black vest. His expression was calm, almost unnervingly so, as he looked back at her. "Ma'am, I was already in motion. You need to wait your turn." Tori scoffed, her frustration boiling over. "Wait my turn? Do you know who I am? I do not wait for—" She stopped herself, but the words hung in the air between them, the implication clear. The driver's eyes narrowed slightly, and for the first time, she saw a flicker of something other than calm in his expression. "For what, ma'am? Say it. You do not wait for what?" Tori felt her face flush, caught between embarrassment and defensiveness. She doubled down, her voice sharp. "For people who clearly do not understand basic traffic etiquette. You are a driver. Driving is literally your job, and you cannot even do that properly." The man's jaw tightened, but his voice remained controlled. "I understand my job perfectly, ma'am. What you do not understand is basic respect. Money does not give you the right to speak to people like they are beneath you." Tori felt like she had been slapped. "How dare you lecture me? I should report you to whatever budget service you work for." The driver's eyes held hers for a long moment. "Please do. My work speaks for itself, but entitled attitudes like yours, that speaks for itself too." He rolled up his window and drove away, leaving Tori sitting in her car, shaking with a mixture of rage and something else she could not quite name. Shame, maybe, but she pushed it down, refusing to acknowledge it. She grabbed her phone and called her assistant. Can you believe the audacity? The nerve of that man! By the time she arrived at her lunch meeting, she was flustered and distracted. The investor noticed. He made polite conversation, asked pointed questions about her vision for the company, and by the end of the hour, Tori knew she had lost him. Another failure to add to the growing list. 2 days later, on Monday morning, Tori's world shifted again. Her regular driver, the one who had worked for her family for 3 years, quit over the weekend for a better opportunity. Her assistant had scrambled to find a replacement, booking the highest-rated driver from an elite service called Prestige Drive. Tori had a week of back-to-back meetings, each one critical to her survival as CEO. She needed reliable transportation, and she needed it now. At 7 in the morning, her doorbell rang. Tori was already on her phone, fielding an email from a board member who questioned her latest proposal. She opened the door without looking up. "You were the driver? Fine. I need to be at—" She looked up. Her words died in her throat. It was him, the man from the parking lot, the same dark eyes, the same calm expression, now dressed in an immaculate black suit with a vest, standing on her doorstep like some kind of cosmic joke. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then he broke the silence, his voice professional and even. "Ms. Sterling,
I am Tyrell Thompson from Prestige Drive Services. I will be your driver for the week." Tori's shock turned quickly to cold anger. "You have got to be kidding me." "I assure you, ma'am, I am quite serious. Your assistant booked the service. If you would prefer to request someone else, that can be arranged, though it may take a few hours." Tori's mind raced. She was already cutting it close on time. She couldn't afford to wait for another driver. But more than that, a vindictive idea began to form in her mind. Here was this man who had embarrassed her, who had spoken to her like she was in the wrong, and now he was going to work for her. She could make him regret every word he said. A cold smile spread across her face. "No, you will do. In fact, you will do perfectly. Let me be clear about my expectations, Mr. Thompson. I require absolute punctuality, discretion, and obedience. I do not tolerate mistakes, excuses, or attitudes. Think you can handle that?" Tyrell's expression didn't change, but she saw the understanding in his eyes. He knew exactly what she was doing. "I have never had complaints about my service, ma'am." "Well, I'm not your average client. We'll see how long that record lasts." She brushed past him toward the car, already planning the week ahead. If he thought he could lecture her and get away with it, he was about to learn a very painful lesson. The war had begun.
The first day was exactly what Tori had planned. She made Tyrell wait outside in the cold for 45 minutes after their agreed departure time, watching from her window as he stood by the car, professional and still. When she finally emerged, she complained that he looked unprofessional for shivering slightly in the morning air. During the drive, she changed destinations constantly, redirecting him mid-route and then criticizing him for not somehow anticipating her changes. She took loud phone calls in the back seat, making sure her voice carried as she spoke to her assistant about how difficult it was to find good help these days, how some people simply were not cut out for service positions. Tyrell said nothing. Every instruction was met with a calm, "Yes, ma'am," or "Right away, Miss Sterling." His composure was infuriating. By evening, after forcing him to carry her shopping bags, briefcase, and coffee while she walked ahead without so much as a glance back, Tori felt a strange emptiness. She had expected some reaction, some crack in his armor, but there was nothing, just that same quiet dignity that somehow made her feel smaller than any words could. As he opened her car door at her mansion, Tori's heel caught on the frame. She stumbled forward, and before she could fall, Tyrell's hand was there, steadying her arm. For a split second, their eyes met. His grip was gentle but firm. He released her immediately. "Careful, ma'am." Tori pulled away, embarrassed by her own clumsiness and by the unexpected kindness. "I do not need your help. Be here at 6:30 tomorrow morning, and do not be late." 6:30. Understood. She watched him drive away, then slammed her door harder than necessary. Why was he not braking? Why was he not giving her the satisfaction of knowing she had gotten to him? The second day, Tori escalated. She handed Tyrell a list of errands that would be impossible to complete in the time allowed. Dry cleaning from across town, documents from her lawyer's office in the opposite direction, her specific coffee order from a cafe that always had a 45-minute wait, all while getting her to back-to-back meetings on time. She smirked as she handed him the list. "Think you can handle this, Mr. Thompson, or is this too much for your capabilities?" Tyrell studied the list carefully, then looked at her. "I will handle it, Miss Sterling." Tori spent her first meeting distracted, waiting for the inevitable call that he had failed, that he had missed something or been late. But when she returned to the car after her second meeting, everything was there. The dry cleaning was pressed and perfect, the documents organized in the folder exactly as she liked them, and the coffee was still hot. She stared at the items, then at him. "How did you—" "Logistics and time management, ma'am. I was a logistics officer in the military. Coordinating complex operations was my specialty." Tori felt something shift inside her, a crack in the wall she had built. She pushed it away. "Well, do not expect praise for doing your job." But that night, lying in bed, she could not stop thinking about it, about him, about the efficiency, the intelligence it took to accomplish what she had given him. She had underestimated him, and the realization made her uncomfortable. Wednesday arrived with a weight Tori had been dreading, the board meeting, the vote on her leadership. Everything came down to this presentation, and she was terrified. She had spent the previous night rehearsing until her voice was hoarse, but doubt gnawed at her.
In the car, she paced in the back seat at a stoplight, gripping her presentation folder so tightly her knuckles were white. She could see Tyrell watching her in the rearview mirror. "Miss Sterling, if I may." "You may not. I did not ask for your input." Tyrell paused, then continued gently. "You are gripping that folder so tight you are wrinkling the documents." Tori looked down. He was right. She loosened her grip, feeling foolish. "I have seen combat leaders freeze before crucial operations. The ones who succeeded were not the ones who pretended not to be afraid. They were the ones who acknowledged the fear and walked forward anyway." Tori's voice came out quieter than she intended. "What if I fail? What if I am not enough?" "Then you will be in the same position as every other person who has ever tried something difficult. But from what I have seen, you do not strike me as someone who gives up easily." Tori looked up, meeting his eyes in the mirror. "You don't even know me. I know you have tried to break me for 3 days, and I am still here. That tells me you are persistent. Use that in there." The meeting was brutal. Board members questioned her projections, challenged her decisions, pushed back on her vision. But every time Tori felt herself faltering, she heard Tyrell's words. She held her ground. When the vote came, it was not unanimous, but it was enough. 90 more days to prove herself. When she returned to the car, she was emotionally exhausted. She slid into the back seat, and for the first time in days, her mask cracked. She sat in silence, staring out the window, feeling the weight of everything pressing down on her. "Thank you for what you said." Tyrell's voice was genuine, warm even. "You did the work, Miss Sterling. I just reminded you." The silence that followed was different, softer, less hostile. Tori realized with a start that she didn't want the silence to end. Thursday began differently. Tori found herself saying please, then thank you. Small words, but they felt monumental. During lunch, her business associate kept her waiting for over an hour, leaving her frustrated and starving. When she returned to the car, Tyrell handed her a sandwich. "What is this? You mentioned yesterday you had not eaten before your meeting. I noticed you hadn't today either. It's just a sandwich from that cafe you like." Tori stared at the sandwich, then at him. This man, the one she had tormented, the one she had tried to humiliate, had bought her lunch. "Why would you—" "Because it's my job to anticipate your needs, Miss Sterling, and because no one performs well on an empty stomach." The kindness in his voice broke something inside her. "Thank you, Tyrell." It was the first time she had used his first name. She saw the slight surprise in his eyes, followed by a small smile. That afternoon, while Tyrell waited in the car during her meeting, Tori couldn't concentrate. She kept thinking about him, about the book she had seen him reading earlier, about the way he carried himself with such quiet strength. When had she stopped seeing him as just the driver? When had she started noticing the intelligence in his eyes, the gentle way he spoke? Later, as they drove through the city, she asked, "What are you reading?" Tyrell glanced at her in the mirror, surprised. "James Baldwin, The Fire Next Time." "I tried to read that in college, couldn't finish it." "Maybe you weren't ready for it yet. Sometimes we have to grow into certain truths." Tori looked at him, really looked at him. "Is that what you think? That I need to grow?" "I think we all do, ma'am, every day." Tori took a breath. "You can call me Tori when it's just us." Tyrell met her eyes in the mirror, and the way he said her name made her heart skip. Tori. Friday morning arrived too quickly. Tori greeted Tyrell with actual warmth, offered him coffee, asked about his morning. The hostility was gone, replaced with something she was afraid to name.
During the drive, she finally asked the question that had been haunting her. "Why did you not quit? After how I treated you that first day, those first 3 days, why did you stay?" Tyrell was thoughtful. "Honestly? At first, because I needed the job. My sister is in medical school. I'm helping with tuition." Guilt washed over Tori. "Tyrell, But then I stayed because I recognized something in you." "What?" "Someone fighting. Someone scared. Someone hiding behind walls because they are afraid of being hurt. I know that person, Tori. I have been that person." Tears formed in her eyes. "I was horrible to you." "You were. But you are not that person anymore. People are not defined by their worst moments. They are defined by what they do after." "I do not deserve your kindness." "Maybe not, but I'm giving it anyway." Tori broke down crying. Tyrell pulled the car over to a quiet spot,
handed her tissues, and gave her space to feel everything she had been holding back. When she finally composed herself, she looked at him. That day in the parking lot, I was so awful because I was falling apart inside. My father had just died. I was drowning in responsibility and fear. And you? You stood up to me. No one does that. Everyone just takes my money and my attitude and says nothing. But you saw me, really saw me, and you called me out. I am sorry about your father. I am sorry for what I said, what I did, all of it. Apology accepted. Tori's voice dropped to barely a whisper. I do not want this week to end. Tyrell's careful composure wavered. Tori, I know. It is inappropriate. You work for me. I'm sorry. Forget I said anything. His voice was thick with emotion. I do not want it to end either. The air between them changed, charged with everything they had not said, everything they could not say, but it was there, undeniable and real.
Saturday arrived with a bittersweet weight. It was the last day. Tyrell was scheduled to drive Tori to one final event, a charity gala her company was hosting. It was the last item on her week of critical appearances, and after tonight, their professional arrangement would end. Tori stood in front of her mirror, adjusting the elegant navy gown she had chosen for the evening. She had changed 3 times already, which was unusual for her. She told herself it was because this gala was important, that investors and board members would be watching her every move. But deep down, she knew the truth. She wanted Tyrell to see her, really see her, one last time. When she descended the stairs, Tyrell was waiting in the foyer. He wore his usual immaculate black suit, but somehow tonight he looked different, or maybe she was just seeing him differently now. When he looked up and saw her, he froze for a moment, and she watched something flicker across his face before his professional mask returned. You look beautiful. Tori felt warmth spread through her chest. So do you. The drive to the gala was quiet. Neither of them seemed to know what to say. The silence was filled with all the things they wanted to express but could not find words for. Tori watched the city lights blur past her window, acutely aware that these were their last moments together, at least in this capacity. When they arrived at the venue, Tyrell opened her door as he had done all week, but this time, when Tori stepped out, their hands touched briefly. It was accidental, fleeting, but it sent electricity through her entire body. Their eyes met, and for a moment, the rest of the world disappeared. I will be right here when you are ready to leave. Tori wanted to say something, anything, but her voice would not come. She simply nodded and walked into the gala, feeling his gaze on her back until the doors closed between them. The event was elegant, as expected. Crystal chandeliers cast warm light over well-dressed guests who mingled with champagne glasses and polite conversation. Tori moved through the crowd, shaking hands, accepting congratulations on her recent board victory, discussing future projects with potential investors. She smiled and nodded at all the right moments, but her mind was elsewhere. Every few minutes her eyes drifted to the windows, searching for a glimpse of Tyrell standing by the car outside. Her assistant, Maya, noticed after the 3rd time. You have been distracted all night. What is going on? Tori took a sip of her champagne, considering how much to reveal. I think I made a terrible mistake. With what? I am falling in love with someone completely wrong for me. At least that is what everyone would say. Maya raised an eyebrow. Who says it's wrong? Your heart? Tori looked at her assistant, surprised by the simple wisdom in those words. Then she looked back toward the window, toward where Tyrell waited in the darkness outside. Suddenly, with perfect clarity, she knew what she had to do. Without another word, Tori set down her champagne glass and started walking toward the exit. Maya called after her, confused, and several guests turned to watch as the host of the evening simply left her own gala. But Tori did not care. For the first time in her life, she was listening to what her heart wanted instead of what everyone expected. She pushed through the doors and into the cool night air. Tyrell was leaning against the car, and when he saw her emerge, he straightened immediately, concern crossing his face. Is everything all right? Are you ready to leave? Tori walked toward him, her gown flowing behind her. Tyrell, can we go somewhere? Anywhere but here. Are you sure? Your event? I am sure. Please, just drive. He opened the door for her without another question,
and soon they were moving through the city streets. Tyrell drove them to a quiet overlook that showed the entire city spread out below, lights twinkling like stars brought down to earth. He parked, and they both got out, standing side by side at the railing. Tori breathed in the night air, gathering her courage. In 1 week, you have made me question everything I thought I knew about myself. You have seen me at my absolute worst, cruel, petty, vindictive, and somehow you still looked at me like I was worth something. How? Because I saw past the armor. I saw a woman who was hurting, who was scared, who was trying so hard to be strong that she forgot it's okay to be vulnerable. Tori turned to face him fully. I do not want to say goodbye to you. Then do not. People will talk, your boss, my board, everyone will have opinions about... Tyrell stepped closer, and Tori's breath caught. Do you care? I am trying not to, but I am scared. So am I. Terrified, actually. Of what? Of how much I feel for you after just 1 week, of how you have changed everything. Tori felt tears forming again, but this time they were different. Tyrell, He reached up, gently cupping her face with his hand. The tenderness in the gesture undid her completely. Then he leaned in and kissed her, soft and careful, as if she were something precious. Tori melted into it, her hands finding his chest, feeling his heart beating as fast as her own. When they finally pulled apart, Tori was smiling through her tears. So what happens now? Now, I take you home, and tomorrow, if you will have me, I take you to dinner, not as your driver, as Tyrell, just Tyrell. What about your job, the service? I'll figure it out. Some things are worth more than a paycheck. Tori laughed, a genuine sound of joy she hadn't felt in months. Actually, I have an idea about that. My company needs a director of operations, someone with military logistics experience, strategic thinking, and the ability to handle difficult personalities. Tyrell raised an eyebrow, a smile playing at his lips. Is that right? I'm serious. You're brilliant, Tyrell. You've been wasted just driving people around. Let me give you a real opportunity, not because of this, because of us, but because you've earned it. I don't want your charity, Tori. It's not charity, it's recognition, and maybe a little bit of selfishness. I like having you around. Tyrell pulled her close again, and she rested her head against his chest, listening to his heartbeat. One condition. What? You promised to never treat anyone you treated me that first day again. Tori looked up at him, her expression serious. I promise. You have my word. You have taught me more about humility and dignity in 1 week than I've learned in 28 years. Then we have a deal, Ms. Sterling. Tori smiled and playfully pushed his shoulder. It's Tori. Just Tori. Just Tori. They stood there under the stars, holding each other, two people who had started as enemies and found something neither of them expected. Love had arrived in the most unlikely package, wrapped in conflict and pride and harsh words. But sometimes, Tori thought, the best things come from the hardest beginnings. 6 months later, Tori stood before her board of directors with confidence she had never felt before. The company had just completed its strongest quarter in 5 years, and beside her stood Tyrell Thompson, the director of operations who had revolutionized their entire system. No one questioned their relationship anymore. They had proven themselves, both separately and together. But late at night, when they were alone, Tori would sometimes remember that awful woman in the parking lot who had yelled at a stranger. She would remember the 3 days of cruelty she had inflicted on a man who had done nothing to deserve it. Stop, Tyrell would whisper, taking her hand. That's not who you are anymore. How did I get so lucky, she would ask, that you didn't just walk away? And Tyrell would smile that quiet smile she had come to love. Because sometimes the person who challenges us the most is exactly the person we need. And sometimes, when we're at our worst, that's when we're closest to becoming our best. Love does not always arrive in pretty packages. Sometimes it arrives in conflict, in discomfort, in the mirror someone holds up to show us who we have become. Tori looked down on Tyrell at first sight, not just with her eyes, but with her heart. And in 1 week, he taught her to look up, to look inward, and finally, to look at him and see not a driver, not an employee, not someone beneath her, but an equal, a partner, a love.
Sometimes the road to love is paved with our worst mistakes, but if we're lucky, if we're brave, those mistakes can lead us exactly where we need to be. And for Tori Sterling and Tyrell Thompson, that road led them home, to each other.